if this pay-per-view flops for Andy, it's not going to be a good look, because Chris Arreola really not the best opponent for a man who, not even 2 years ago, was unified champion of the world. And it's not like Joshua put his lights out in the rematch or he sustained any serious injuries. He had a cut, but the cut's healed up. Why they just didn't look for his next big fight, I don't know. But, you know, he's got the weight issues, which they're saying he's now got under control. If he looks like a lump of lard on that scale on Friday, it's going to be a bad sign, as far as I'm concerned. If this flops on the pay-per-view platform, it will look like a cynical attempt to try and rob the consumer's pockets, because Chris Arreola ceased to be a top 10 contender a long time ago. Spotlight is going to be on the PBC. We don't know yet if Fox are terminating the contract with them, but this is one of their big events, with Ruiz just a short time ago being unified champion. This is a massive event. And how did Chris Arreola get the gig, you ask? A cynic like myself may say, let's put two Mexicans in the ring. I mean, the Mexican fan base will buy anything if two Mexicans are fighting. That's not me trying to be disrespectful. That could be a cynical marketing trick to capitalize on the Mexican fan base's loyalty to their fighters. What Andy needs to do is rid that stigma that he likes being the underdog, he likes being underrated, he likes being the chubby kid who the bullies are picking on, and then all of a sudden he shows hands. He likes to have that element of surprise. He will never be afforded that no more after beating AJ in one of the biggest upsets in heavyweight history. He'll no longer be afforded that. Same thing with the Joseph Parker fight. I thought Parker was going to beat him, and to me, Ruiz won the fight. I thought Ruiz won. He needs to shake off that I'm an underdog and I like it. I've heard a lot of boxers saying, yeah, I want to be the underdog. No, you don't want to be the underdog. You want to be that guy who everybody thinks is going to blitz through his opponents, because that means you have a target on your back. They all want to fight you. If there's not a high level of expectation for your performance as an athlete, you're either not elite or not striving to be elite. I'm not understanding how Al Heyman and anyone who's relevant in terms of getting these fights made over there, I'm not understanding why they haven't got Ruiz Wilder to try and get some leverage for the winner of AJ versus Fury. It's been well over a year since both men have been in the ring. That's way than enough time for them to prepare to fight someone more significant than Chris Arreola, or the knockover job they're going to stick Wilder in with if he does choose to return to the ring. These guys are professional boxers. They're not part-time boxers. They're professional boxers. Train, fight. Train and fight. I mean, they're talking about Fox bailing on the PBC, but it's them signing off on fights like this. It's Fox signing off on the fights. If you had said, no, we don't want this as a pay-per-view, maybe what they're doing with the PBC may work a little better. They could have done a better fight than this. If you're talking pay-per-view, if it was free or regular subscription, then cool, but I'm just not impressed. Dillian has just come back from a knockout defeat and avenged it. He would have fought Andy. Andy wasn't knocked out. I mean, even Wilder, if he's talking about a comeback, he should fight Dillian or Andy next fight. No way around it. AJ got stopped by Ruiz, who was world ranked. He came back, beat Ruiz, and then took on his mandatory. What's all this? I have to go all the way back down to preliminary level after a loss. It's American boxing nowadays. So they're talking about £150,000 split between AJ and Fury. If this fight is made and it comes off, it'll be the two highest purses that any Brits have made from out of a boxing ring ever. It could potentially change world boxing, not British boxing, world boxing for the foreseeable future. Because while the fight's not in Britain, it's not in America. Could be that watershed moment, that big time boxing is no longer the sole propriety of America. Not that they're totally out of the loop, but this is a big shift in the landscape. And a lot of territories are now going to fancy their chances on putting on big boxing events, especially when live gates are allowed back in arenas and stadiums. On the back of this, Eddie is signing a 9-figure deal with DAZN. The UK arguably could become the biggest fight hub in the game right now. the UK is going to be a very attractive proposition for fighters to take their career-defining fights in highest paydays all around the world, overseas. Does Frank Warren have a point here in response to Eddie signing the DAZN deal and leaving Sky? He said, Eddie will no longer have Sky's marketing machine behind them. A lot of people are going to see it like Frank is hating, and he probably has a little envy over the deal. Who wouldn't? But he does have a point. He does have a point. Sky marketing has been a big factor in Eddie's success. Although I don't know how relevant it really is today. I'm not sure. I think Eddie's already made a name worldwide, and with him hooking up with Loop, the media arm, and them taking on a lot more of the media coverage behind Matchroom, I'm not sure if that's going to be the factor like Frank is saying. Frank's a little behind on the times. He probably doesn't know about Loop and probably doesn't know about how they're going to expand the Matchroom YouTube channel and the website. He probably doesn't know much about that. You'll be hearing a lot more from Katie Hearn, Eddie's sister. This isn't 2013, 2014 when Carl Froch was fighting George Groves, or even 2016 when AJ was fighting Klitschko or Dillian White. This isn't then. Or even when Hatton was fighting Mayweather. I know Eddie didn't have nothing to do with that, but it was on Sky. And, you know, them days they used to have Sky Sports just on regular Freeview. So these fights were promoted constantly in the build-up to the actual ring action. You know, Talk Sport, which is radio, and they do a lot more online media, they talk boxing way more than what they used to. Eddie and Matchroom are looking to take matters into their own hand in terms of marketing and media. You see, look what Frank's saying. I know that we were there, and I know how much it helped us when we were doing pay-per-view shows on Sky. That was the 90s when Frank was doing pay-per-view. When's the last time Frank done a pay-per-view? What, Klitschko versus Fury? That's the last one I remember him being involved in. And they put that on pay-per-view. How much did it do? It done 545,000 on Sky. It's not bad numbers, but it's nowhere near any of the big pay-per-view numbers that have been done in Britain. Like, for instance, AJ done 400,000 against Dillian. That was for the British title. Fury and Klitschko was 545,000. AJ and Klitschko was nearly triple that, 1,532,000. Right? So Frank's saying it's a formidable machine. No, things have changed, Frank. Things have changed. Things have changed. Frank himself does way more social media, doesn't he? Why? Because things have changed. So yes, it's a formidable machine, but people are receiving their content via different means and channels these days. It's just how it is. Where was the formidable Sky marketing team for the Klitschko Fury fight? Where was it? Don't get it twisted. In Germany, where Klitschko is based, it did pay-per-view there, but it done huge numbers. Done huge numbers in Germany. I'm talking about on Frank Warren and Mick Hennessy's end in the UK. It done 545,000 buys. So as much as Sky have a formidable or had a formidable market team, they still need a product to work with. Yeah? They need a product to work with. Frank's probably talking about the days when he was doing pay-per-views with Prince Nassim Hamed and Mike Tyson versus Bruno, which was the first pay-per-view event on British soil. Bruno versus Tyson 2. 600,000 it done. And that's 4 or 5 a.m. And Frank Warren was behind that. Nassim Hamed versus Tom Johnson. 650,000. That's not bad for a featherweight clash. Although that's primetime viewing. It's not bad. But this is the early days of pay-per-view, you know. And Sky didn't have as much subscribers as they do today. Frank also promoted Mike Tyson versus Julius Francis in the year 2000. That done 500,000. It's not bad. Non-title fight. It's not bad. But then again, look. Amir Khan versus Kotelnik. That was on Sky. 100,000. What happened to the formidable Sky marketing team? No, people just weren't that interested in the fight. Khan had not been knocked out too long ago. And Kotelnik, nobody knows him over here. That was Khan's first world title fight. But it only done 100,000. Then after the Amir Khan fight, let's bear in mind, right, that Frank didn't sign with BT till 2018. He hasn't really done no pay-per-view since the Amir Khan flop. I think he done Hay versus Chisora. He done Hay versus Chisora. Flopped. I ain't got the numbers here. I don't have to look. You can look it up. It flopped. It flopped. On Box Nation. It did a good gate at the football stadium. I think it was at the West Ham ground. It done a good gate, but it flopped on the box office. Frank ain't done no pay-per-view since then. And as much as Frank is saying promoting boxing on Sky is contingent on the great marketing they have over there, yes and no. For boxing to work in the UK on Sky, sports like football have been integral. Premier League, that alone is just going to drive the numbers up on people who purchase the app. And 6 days ago, DAZN have actually purchased the rights to air Premier League games, and that's what they have wanted all the time, and they've got it. I disagree, Frank. I can see what Frank's saying, but I disagree. When you go for it, point by point, you know what I'd like to see Eddie do is get guys like Gonzalez, Cuadras, Estrada, Rungvisai, Nietes to fight over here. Have a tournament over here, man, for them guys. That'd be great. That'd be flipping brilliant. And that's what this DAZN deal should represent, man. That's what it should represent. I don't think Eddie has got much to worry about. I mean, he seems to be a pretty good promoter of his boxers and a self-promoter. One of the best, actually. And I've been watching boxing a long time. He's pretty good. So I don't think he's got much to worry about. The man's promoting Canelo, Golovkin, and Anthony Joshua. How do you Sky marketing, Frank? You notice when it's coming to a stage where it looks like they're finalizing Joshua and Fury, they started taking his training photos all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Beats, you see the pattern? Beats, you see the pattern? When AJ is doing something, when AJ is doing something, Wilder, me too. I got a fight coming up.
Looks like a little amendment in the agreement between Fury and Joshua. It looks like a single bout, not a 2-fight deal. They are on the verge of a 1-fight deal. Hearn bumped into Fury and he reassured Hearn that he's all in. Well, a lot of the contenders will be happy that it's only a 1-fight deal because there's a lot of traffic there. Dillian, Wilder, Hrgovic and Hunter still have to agree terms for their eliminator. Joe Joyce and Usyk, what's happened to their eliminator? If this is true, what's the reason behind this? It's supposed to be a 2-fight deal. Initially, that was when Daniel Kinahan was all the rage. All of a sudden, all these worshippers of Daniel Kinahan don't speak about him no more. Tyson introduced us to the news via Daniel Kinahan that it's a 2-fight deal in the Middle East, and it looks like that's changed. I wonder what's behind the change. Money? Can't finance 2 of them. Time restrictions? Satisfy the sanctioning bodies with mandatories, especially AJ. Who knows?
When is Ryan Garcia versus Javier Fortuna supposed to happen?
2 months from now, bro.
July 9th.
2 months from now.
July 9th. I think it's on July 9th.
July 9th. I think in 1 month we're gonna hear from Ryan Garcia. Big announcement. Watch out from Thriller.
Ryan, now I'm gonna tell you something. I've been talking to a lot of people. I'm not gonna say who I've been talking to. I know a lot of shit, actually. I'll say that Golden Boy having fighters on Triller is a real thing. It's a real move.
Is that a
I'll
possibility?
say that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a real move. It's a real
very
move.
high probability. Very high probability.
Yes.
I can see it. I hope so.
Ryan Garcia, let me just say this, yeah. I believe the financial rewards for who he thinks he is are not there. That's why he's not taking these fights, man. That's why he's not taking these fights. You know, and like at this stage of his career and the amount of profile he's got, he believes that even if he doesn't box, he's going to do something that is going to earn him money anyway. So right now, I don't think he's getting $1 million for Fortuna.
No, I don't think so.
No.
And that too.
Hey,
Yeah.
hold on. I'm about to get off.
Could be some of the reason he's not getting in the ring. Financial reward ain't there.
So let me ask you, Beats, and we can see, but just to get it out, you don't believe it's mental health issues. You believe it's purse issues.
The type of mental issues that $3 million could fix pretty easy. Ryan has had entitlement issues for a little while. On one of his come-up fights, he complained about his 50 grand purse that they're treating him like shit. He got paid $250,000 for 2 fights in 2019, And these are come-up fights. They're not world title fights. They're not with the highest ranked caliber fighters. And he's complaining about his purses. In 2020, in the pandemic, he withdrew from a Golden Boy card, which prompted Oscar to make a tweet that, due to Team at King Ryan G and his decision not to accept a July the 4th bout, we will now return in late July with the future of boxing, Virgil Ortiz. More exciting details to follow. And they've had a beef for a little while. I think Oscar and the likes of Eric Gomez have been a bit too easy on Ryan and, haven't really put their foot down. And it's embarrassed them to a degree that he's walking all over them, choosing when he's going to fight. When, at this stage, he needs to be active. Between 2018, late 2018, he's had about 7 rounds in between then and the Luke Campbell fight. I'll probably boil it down to his inactivity and lack of professional rounds. Why a non-puncher like Luke is decking him and could have took him out if he had any killer instinct. And when he withdrew from the fight last year, you have to ask yourself why. He should have been hungry to get in there. It's not like he's been fighting hard 10-rounders back-to-back for any period of his career. No, he chose to stay inactive until he fought Luke Campbell. And it was a pandemic, when a lot of fighters had to retire because they couldn't get any work. And there were a lot of cutbacks. But no, Ryan weren't going to fight for that money. But they paid him $500,000 for the Luke Campbell fight. So that motivated him enough to fight. But they're not paying him the same type of purse for Javier Fortuna, I don't believe. And I think since the Manny Pacquiao thing fell through, and that would have been a career highest payday, life-changing money, I don't think he's got over that. The risk-reward for the Devin Haney fight, which he won an eliminator for, Ryan's probably got it in his head that he's not going to take that type of fight unless you're paying him $1 million, $1.5 million, and more. This is partly due to this social media following he has. It's gave him a false sense of his actual market value. How much of them people on Instagram or Twitter are going to actually purchase his pay-per-views is the question. He hasn't done a pay-per-view yet, and there's a reason for that. He hasn't put the work in. He hasn't developed a fan base of casuals and hardcores that would take him over that pay-per-view threshold to say that he's a superstar. He's not there yet. Maybe when things get quote-unquote back to normal, there might be a little more enthusiasm for him about boxing, but I'm not so sure. He's been fighting so infrequently and he's so young. Maybe he might just walk away from it. He's fragile as well. Like when Tank started taunting him about his 200,000 purse, saying he needs it to pay off for some Ferrari he purchased, and then called him broke boy. He probably got more upset about that than if Tank said he'd knock him out in a couple of rounds. That probably wouldn't even upset Ryan as much. That's how crazy it is now. Ryan sees himself as a celebrity, and that's a dangerous road for a young boxer. It really is. And like the guys were saying, maybe he could be heading over to Triller. Maybe Golden Boy could be heading over to Triller. But I have a feeling if it's all going over to Triller, Ryan's probably going to try and cut a separate deal from Golden Boy. Kind of like what Canelo did when he left Golden Boy. Came back to the zone and done a separate deal with them. Do I believe that he pulled out because either he or Golden Boy are going to go to Triller in a few months? Well, it could be true, but if you're going to use mental health to pull out the fight because you're not happy with the purse or you're planning to do a bigger deal with Triller, how's that going to look that you would hijack mental health for reasons like that? If he does have anxiety, that sure ain't going to help. The media's going to be all over it. The fans are going to be all over it. But then again, I don't know, maybe he's playing a game with us. Maybe he's having the last laugh. As for Oscar telling Haney that he needs to build himself up before he gets the fight with Ryan, well, who the fuck is Ryan? What purses has Ryan done? What gates of pay-per-view has Ryan done? What are you talking about? Like, do you want world titles or not? You don't ask world champions to build himself up if you genuinely want to take his belt and become a champ yourself. And it's talk like that from Oscar, who, he was funny on Triller, but he's a grown man who's trying to be taken serious as a businessman. And it's Oscar to a degree, and probably some of the yes men around Ryan, who have turned Ryan into this wannabe celebrity boxer. But we'll leave it there for now. I mean, look at this PBC guy, Tom Brown, the way he's choosing to phrase this. Of course, Eddie Hearn wants Andrade off the DAZN platform because he's boring. No, that's not what he said. He said he wants to unify the belts, and he's been as vocal about Golovkin as he has Charlo. He wants to unify the belts against either. Like, when Liam Williams was the mandatory for Andrade, a lot of people were saying, oh, he's trying to duck him, and oh, he should take the fight, he should take the fight. So what you're basically saying, inadvertently, is, oh, Williams is a good contender, you should take this fight. When he does take the fight, oh, you're still not good enough to take on Golovkin or Charlo. You know, and then some of you want to slam Eddie Hearn about everything. He's trying to get his guy to unify belts against two reluctant belt holders, but yet you want to give Andrade and Hearn the bad press for trying to take the fights. This is the only time I remember watching boxing when people who actually try and make the fights are ridiculed, is social media. You try and make the fight and there's something wrong with you, not the person who's ducking the fight. To be honest, man, I can't even get that triggered about it. What's the point? Then you got the two victims, Fury and Saunders, blaming everything that's wrong with their careers on Eddie Hearn. Get the fight done or I'm going to fight Ajit Caballero. Really? Who's going to watch it? Why are you promoting Canelo over Billy Joe Saunders? I don't know, maybe Billy's a bit of a prat and win, lose or draw, Eddie should get rid of him.